The main character is reincarnated in a different world with the strength of a farmer. Initially named Hikaru, he intended to enjoy a relaxed farming life. But after a few years, many people moved nearby to live alongside him. First were vicious monsters, then advanced races with sophisticated magic, followed by high-tier creatures like dragon tribes, turning his small house into a powerful village that even demon tribes feared. He married and had children, living a second life filled with happiness. Due to a serious illness, the main character Hikaru's age only stopped at 36 years old. His life was a series of tragedies, from being betrayed by friends to being cheated on by a lover. When it comes to black, I truly lose to the squid with the black belly and white fur. Right after logging out, Hikaru suddenly met God in the form of a soul. He admitted that his life was as dark as a smoked dog's, also due to his own mistakes. So in this new life, he decided to grant him a healthy body resistant to all kinds of diseases. By the way, God also wanted to know if Hikaru had any other wishes since, from the alcohol 3 cheers to my level up alone, he could give him anything. Yet, Hikaru simply wanted to become a farmer because when in the forest, his illness made him enjoy a farming program very much. And after discussing with the agricultural deity for a few minutes, God decided to grant Hikaru a healthy body, along with the strength of farming tools and energy. Before Hikaru could even ask for instructions, God had already teleported him to the other world. Upon waking, Hikaru found himself lying in a forest. Now that he has been reincarnated, he will use this second life to enjoy the joy of farming. To build a village, the first thing Hikaru needs to do is conduct reconnaissance. The power from farming tools and energy allows him to transform into any farming tool just by thinking about it. The farming tools created by him are not only light, but also very strong. But before planting crops, water and food are needed. Therefore, Hikaru focused on listening for recent sounds of running water, but found nothing. At this moment, Hikaru suddenly heard a strange noise. The presence of monsters here is not unusual, so previously he had to find a place to store his belongings. After searching for some time, Hikaru found a huge ancient tree and temporarily chose it as his base. Since there are neither rivers nor ponds around, the farmer decided to dig a well with his own hands. It may sound miraculous, but hard tasks for farmers have been made easier by these powerful tools. As soon as Hikaru finished speaking, he created a well and began his journey to find underground water sources. And it didn't take him much time to locate the underground water source. Thinking perhaps he was just lucky, but who knows if it was due to God's intervention. After solving the issue of drinking water, the next step would be finding food supplies. But thanks to divine assistance, Hikaru wasn't only as strong as a bull, but also didn't feel hungry. Then, Hikaru continued using his versatile tools to transform this place into an ideal farming area. To have land for planting vegetables, Hikaru first had to clear the obstructive trees. Initially, Hikaru planned to cut down trees according to textbook formulas, but was surprised by how strong he was, managing to fell a tree with one swing. With the power of the universal farming tool, he peeled the sap from the trees as if peeling a fruit, cut down the trees like cutting meat, and chopped wood soft like cheese. Although there are many types of tools that Hikaru doesn't know the names of, the universal farming tool will transform according to his imagination. After gathering a pile of firewood, Hikaru planned to build a small shelter following the new player guide in the garden simulation game. Having fun too much, Hikaru forgot it was getting late. And at night, one needs light. So he asked the farming tools and energy to create matches and lighters, but that's not within the domain of agricultural deities. But he could use a magnifying glass to start a fire, though only when the sun hasn't set yet. That night, Hikaru had to dig a temporary shelter for protection. At first, Hikaru planned to dig a cave, but was afraid it might collapse and trap him alive, so he gave up on that idea. He spent his evenings making daily use items like cups and plates. His eyes shone brightly like car headlights, not sure if due to divine blessing or the moonlight in this place. The next morning, Hikaru used the newly created cup to try drinking from the underground water source. Suddenly, he remembered something more important, getting fire from the sun. Then, Hikaru continued felling trees around to get soil for a farm field. Although the all-purpose tool helped him not feel hungry or tired, such tasks still required considerable physical strength. While Hikaru was pondering whether to prioritize finding food supplies, a piece of meat unexpectedly appeared in front of his mouth. Roasted rabbit meat wasn't exactly delicious, but in this difficult situation, having something to eat was good enough. After adding some jotine, Hikaru planned to make a toilet. With all the construction experience, Hikaru created a toilet to relieve his sadness after eating the wild rabbit. To have a happy life in this world, basic amenities like this are indispensable. Finally, after much effort, Hikaru could move on to planting vegetables. As he worked, he took breaks to see which crops could be stored for a long time. After a day of digging and working hard in the soil, Hikaru suddenly realized that he had no seeds to plant. So the diligent farmer had to venture into the forest to find something that could be planted. But unexpectedly, after a good sleep, seedlings suddenly appeared on the plot of land, making Hikaru wonder if it was the power of the universal tool, or if plants in this world are too viper-like. Although he didn't know why they appeared here, Hikaru was determined to protect them from wild rabbits. First, Hikaru will build a wooden fence around the fields. Then he continued digging a ditch to prevent the wild rabbits from getting close. After several days of work, his little field gradually took shape. During this time, Hikaru also hunted wild rabbits to keep food for future use. Hikaru didn't understand why the wild rabbits liked coming to him so much, but when the cat gets a treat, it shouldn't complain. The plants grown with water from the versatile tool grew faster than usual. He had no idea what he was planting, hoping it would be something edible. In case it turned out to be all ornamental plants, he would have been foolish. After a few days, Hikaru's little plot was completed. Since he couldn't lift the wood high, he dug the foundation lower to increase its height. The roof is made of tree bark and fixed with nails right in place. After some time, Hikaru discovered a pair of injured wolves outside the fence. And when he saw that they had no intention to attack, he invited them into the village to play. The day before, Hikaru had just killed an unruly wild boar, so the meat from it was enough to feed the 2 dogs for one meal. Perhaps because the female dog was pregnant, they were attacked by other creatures before reaching here. Instead of preparing for childbirth, Hikaru had to give up his beloved hut to them. That night, Hikaru had to hide in a hollow inside a tree trunk. He feared that wild boars would attack during the female dog's labor, so he decided to stay awake and guard. And the result was the next morning. The female dog successfully gave birth to 4 puppies, making Hikaru feel relieved. Therefore, he cut the best part of the wild boar as a congratulatory gift for the dog couple. After giving birth, Hikaru thought the dogs would leave, but surprisingly they really loved this place. Since they were accustomed to Hikaru's small hut, he decided to build a new house. And when the puppies started running around, it was time to harvest the crops. Fortunately, the unknown plants turned out to be tomatoes. During their stay here, the dogs took turns hunting rabbits and guarding the surrounding area for Hikaru. Calling them just dogs wasn't enough, so he named the dog couple Kuro and Yuki. He was very happy to see that they really enjoyed eating the tomatoes he grew. Watching them eat so happily makes Hikaru want to plant more crops. To store the agricultural products, Hikaru needs an additional warehouse. Besides, he also wants to do many other things gradually as potatoes grow. At a nearby inn, the owner is warning the girl about the scary creatures in the dead forest, but she finds it quite exciting. Although God gave Hikaru a strong body and the power of the versatile tool, he is not allowed to interfere with his life. To compensate for the unfair first life, God granted Hikaru a hopeful second life. Yet, he accidentally teleported him to a forest full of dangerous monsters. Initially, God planned to call Hikaru back, but that would break the rules. Therefore, he waits until Hikaru greens the grass and apologizes to him later, because God can also make mistakes sometimes. After using the all-purpose farming tool for a while, Hikaru realized that plants in VIP areas could grow without seeds. Which plant would appear as a seed when Hikaru thought of it with the all-purpose farming tool? To confirm he received VIP 36, Hikaru thought of sprouts during the land transformation because they are easily recognizable when germinating. Plants grown with the all-purpose farming tool grow faster than usual, but too much can turn into a disaster. These potatoes grew so fast that they poked out of the ground and under sunlight turned a bright green color. Since potato sprouts are quite toxic, Hikaru added more soil to the base for easier potato growth. Back in the old world, Hikaru didn't understand the fields, but now he knows why farmers do what they do. He also stole 2 statues of God and agriculture god to thank them for giving him a happy life. Thanks to the pesticide-free vegetables from the field, Hikaru upgraded his meal to rabbit stew. Though without Thai seasoning packets, it was bland like boiled food. Unlike Hikaru, the Kuro and Zuki enjoy their dried meat pieces very much. A few days later, Hikaru decided to use the adjacent land to plant fruit trees. If successful, this would be a significant step forward in Anne's primitive civilization. While waiting for the fruits to ripen, Hikaru took advantage of the time to train the dogs. His life would have been extremely boring without them around. Though it is not unusual that dogs in the alternate world have horns. Thanks to Kuro, Hikaru quickly found a stream about 30 minutes walk from the base. Upstream, there's a waterfall higher by 1 level, so Hikaru plans to build a water pipe system. Afterwards, Hikaru tried turning the farming tool into a cart and moved effortlessly. But after running for a while, both of them fell face first, so perhaps he should have built a road first. At the base, Hikaru also expanded the farmland further. Rice can help Hikaru maintain his food supply. Rapeseed can produce oil, and planting sugarcane helps him make chicken jerky. Besides, the soybeans he planted a few days ago have grown into bean sprouts. But eating beans without salt is no different from eating raw meat. After some time, Hikaru felt that the weather was starting to get colder, signaling the approach of winter. Initially, Hikaru planned to use wild rabbit skin to make a warm coat, but then realized it had an awful stench. Therefore, Hikaru decided to keep food and enemies as his primary focus in the cozy shelter. Just at this moment, Kuro led a huge black spider to meet Hikaru. The spider was like a straw that saved Hikaru's life, as it is known as the god of patchwork luck. Therefore, it made its nest on the giant tree, with its favorite food being potatoes. Not only did it produce cloth, but also helped Hikaru make clothes. Like this, 10 winters in England wouldn't be a problem. And since the spider resembled a huge cushion, Hikaru decided to name it Jabutong. Finally, winter arrived, but Hikaru was well prepared and wasn't too worried about it. Although food reserves for the winter were plentiful, with fur coats available, Hikaru still felt very lonely. Soon enough, the cold passed, and spring began to show signs. The offspring of Kuro seemed quite different as after a few days, they ventured into the forest. Seeing them grow up made Hikaru feel very happy despite feeling somewhat lonely. However, a few days later, they brought their lover to meet Hikaru. After some time without seeing each other, Jabutong appeared with a litter of young ones. With the dog family now having many more members, Hikaru decided to expand the farmland as food would be needed in greater quantities. Jabutong's alarm bell suddenly rang, so Hikaru followed Kuro into the forest. He discovered a white-haired girl who had stepped into one of Jabutong's traps and was being attacked by his own dogs. And when he heard her cries for help, Hikaru called upon all the forest creatures as it had been a long time since he spoke to another human. However, just as Hikaru approached, this little demon girl seized the opportunity to suck his blood and transformed into an adult. But before he could celebrate, he was tackled by Hikaru's dogs and turned back into a chibi form. After some conversation, Hikaru realized that the girl did not seem hostile towards him. Because she no longer had enough magical power to maintain her adult body, the girl reluctantly asked Hikaru for some blood. But asking like that was like stealing, so many of the farmers and NPCs surrounded her. Although they started a fight there, Hikaru still felt guilty for letting his future wife be bullied to such an extent. Therefore, he decided to let the girl draw more blood to recover. Though he lost quite a bit of blood, Hikaru had a strange feeling because God gave him too much. The white-haired girl was very pleased, as this was her first time drawing rich and nutritious blood. This time, Lu seemed slightly smaller in appearance due to Anshin's dignity as well. Then, Hikaru led Lu to tour his village, which surprised her with many strange plants. Seeing that Lu was quite interested in the vegetables, Hikaru cut a tomato and invited her future wife to try it. And when she tasted a piece, Lu discovered it had an extremely unusual flavor, round and very juicy. Then, Hikaru continued to lead his wife on a tour of other fields belonging to them, from the long carrot field to the strong corn. In an instant, Hikaru inadvertently saw Lu's very happy smile on her lips. That night, Lu rested at Hikaru's house. As a herbalist researcher, she quickly copied down the rare plants here. Previously, there was a nobleman who wanted to seize Lu's research. And when he saw her intention to escape, he sent people after her. Therefore, Lu had to find somewhere to hide until everything calmed down. She journeyed into this forest and discovered many rare plant species. Then Lu also realized that Hikaru was no different from a blind man in She Was a Cave. Although he lives in the forest, he knows nothing about it. Moreover, the magic Hikaru uses is very strange while being illiterate about magic. It has been a long time since Hikaru last spoke to humans, so he offered Lu to stay here permanently. Lu had no intention of refusing, as she planned to stay for some time to study plants. But Hikaru wanted Lu to live with him forever. The young man even knelt down to propose like a marriage proposal, making Lu blush and feel embarrassed. Lu was afraid that she might affect Hikaru because she had just been pursued and as a vampire, but he didn't want to miss this opportunity. She also agreed to live with Hikaru Koma after his sudden proposal, which made her shy as they only just met each other. Now the wood-headed young man realized that proposing to Lu Koma like that was even better. As Hikaru spoke, he knelt down to ask Lu to marry him again, leaving Maka flustered and unable to refuse. Although Lu had agreed to live with Hikaru, she still had to shrink her body to avoid the young man's beastly fits. He also apologized to Lu for what happened yesterday and promised to try harder to control his inner demon. Since Lu moved in with Hikaru, she is considered one of the village members, but Yuki believes it was actually the first time someone came to live there. Including Zabuton's children, there are about 30 villagers now. By the way, Hikaru also planned to add a few more herb fields for his beloved wife to study in peace. After living here for several months, this is the home Hikaru built up. After some time living together, Hikaru discovered that Lu was a heavy sleeper, specifically sleeping over 12 hours past noon, but thanks to her, his quality of life had significantly improved. Not only did Lu help Hikaru create light using simple magic, but she also helped him find salt. Because in this forest, Hikaru only needs to dig a few dozen centimeters underground to find salt crystals. But the stupid farmer didn't know, which shocked Lu. Today morning, Hikaru and Lu visited their newly planted fruit tree's garden. To think that Lu's herbal tea tasted good, but Hikaru was craving iced tea instead. While Hikaru was thinking about what kind of tea to make, the Jabutong alarm suddenly rang. When he rushed to check, Hikaru found Kuro's descendants and Jabutong were gathering a girl. This scene looks familiar. Except that this girl is an extremely good-natured angel. After being rescued by Hikaru, Tia used magic to heal her wounds. As soon as Lu saw Tia, she quickly hid because the two were playing tag. Specifically, catching Lu for trial for daring to defy nobles. But before Tia could do anything, the Kuro clan rushed out to protect their mistress. After Hikaru rescued her, the sisters had a chance to talk. Specifically, complaining about the farmer's dogs. By the way, Lu introduced her new husband briefly, which surprised Tia, while her daughter was extremely embarrassed. As for Tia, although she looked like an angel, according to Lu, she came from a war-loving tribe. While Lu is a scholar biographer, specializes in researching dubious medicines, wherever she doesn't like, the innocent little girl over there gets blown up instantly. That's why Lu had to run here to escape Tia's pursuit, but unexpectedly caught her husband off guard. In terms of strength, Lu admits that she is slightly weaker than Tia, but both are nothing compared to Hikaru's bunch. Setting aside that, Lu wants to invite Tia to live with the two of them here. That's why Lu led her close friend on a tour of the fruit orchard, where pesticide-free vegetables, and especially Jabutong, made the little angel afraid to death. Then Lu invited Tia to join in harvesting fruits and vegetables together with the couple. Although she is a war-loving angel, Lu assures you will enjoy this work. Despite it being her first time farming, this task still seemed boring to Tia. By the way, Hikaru also invited Tia to taste the harvest with pickled cabbage sprinkled with salt. For Hikaru, these are very simple dishes, but they are something special for someone like her. After a day of hard work, finally, all three finished harvesting the crops from her husband's garden. That night, Tia savored the delicious blackberries and was thoroughly satisfied. Seeing that her friend seemed quite content with everything here, Lu continued to invite Tia, because alone she couldn't fight against the monster inside Hikaru. And then after some time, Tia began living together with those two easygoing humans. Thanks to Tia's magic, Hikaru's construction work became less strenuous. Looking at her, though, she is also quite skilled in her own way. Tia's favorite fruit is strawberries, so she hopes Hikaru can plant more of them. For Hikaru, this task is as simple as weaving baskets, but the more he plants, the harder the harvest will be. Lu advises Tia to do a bit more. My country bumpkin friend is smarter than you think. After walking for a while, all three encounter Kuro's grandchildren. Seeing Hikaru fondly petting them like pets makes the wife's angelic child shudder with fear. They will grow up quickly and seek out their mother, so the number of dogs will increase. Therefore, Hikaru decides to build a huge kennel using part of the fruit garden land for them. He also wants to name them, but there are too many to name them all. Meanwhile, Jabutong's grandchildren choose to go abroad for labor. Koma still has some members staying with Hikaru. Tia also asked for a few days off due to personal matters, which made him think she was leaving too. Upon returning, Tia brought along many fairy princesses. As they are relatives, their names are quite similar, and all came here as suggested by Tia. These girls originally lived in the north, but war had destroyed their homeland. Therefore, they wandered around Chocopai like nomads. Without a settlement, they could not increase their population either. The oldest member is about 400 years old, and the youngest is around 300 years old, shocking Hikaru. At first, Hikaru was hesitant, but seeing his two wives plead so earnestly, he reluctantly agreed on the condition that everyone must promise to live in harmony with each other. Then Lu led the new residents to meet the old villagers in the village, Jabutong and the Kuro family. Just as she predicted, all the fairy girls fainted when they saw such a fierce creature living here. Since Tia's group wanted to live together, Hikaru decided to build a large house. The pets of Hikaru had already frightened the fairy girls, but the farming skills of the village chief were even more terrifying. To establish a new area, Hikaru had to dig ditches and make fences. Although possessing the power of the universal farming tool, as a player focused on cultivation, Hikaru's construction techniques would not be as good as those of the fairies. Under their guidance, Hikaru also learned many new things. After 10 days of hard work, everyone's communal house was finally completed. Compared to the small hut they were staying in before, it was like an ocean with canals, making Hikaru feel quite sad. Therefore, he decided to learn their techniques so that he could build a better house later on. Upon entering the house, what first caught everyone's eye was a living room used for activities and dining. And all of it was illuminated by magic. On both sides of the living room were 2 large rooms used as storerooms. Above the storerooms were private bedrooms. Hikaru hoped this place could be fully equipped to serve as a safe haven for them. The new residents quickly adapted to their new way of life, so Hikaru didn't need to worry about harvesting. Before, Hikaru thought elf tribes preferred living in harmony with nature. And now he knows they not only eat meat and use fire, but can even eat raw onions without tearing up. So Tia had to step in to teach him about a course on the other side of reality. To help the village grow, Tia requested permission to take on mining and metallurgy work. Under the guidance of the LIA group, Hikaru successfully created a gene furnace. And after some hard work, the first pan was born. More than 200 years of nomadic life, there is nothing that the LIA group cannot do, except for settling down and reproducing. Hikaru helped everyone settle down, but the rest he is not sure about. Thanks to the appearance of the LIA group, harvesting has become as easy for Hikaru as eating vermicelli. Recently, Hikaru has also started planting wheat. And upon discovering this, the elf tribe decided to make bread from flour. Then Hikaru and everyone else got back to work, and after a few days, the official spiral bread product was born. Due to always building the tree village, Hikaru forgot where he was living. And when he found out this forest was part of the Demon King's real estate, he was shocked to the core. It's like just taking someone else's land. But Lu told Hikaru not to worry, as he created this village all on his own with no help from anyone, so it will be his territory. Initially, Tia was also shocked that Hikaru had not only subdued the hellhounds, but also taken control of the demonic spiders. Additionally, the strange crops Hikaru harvested were so fresh they seemed almost magical, without any preservatives. Although Hikaru possesses many advanced skills, he knows nothing about the world, which makes the girls very curious. Even Lu had to admit that Hikaru was living too carefree. The day began, and today Jabutong brought back a large fire ant for Hikaru. At first, Hikaru planned to host an ant meat buffet, but decided to keep it instead to raise the ants. Then the farmer built a bee house next to the fruit garden, and after 10 days, it became a huge hive. And Tia was terrified when she saw Hikaru playing with the bees. Because he has been too busy lately, Hikaru only now has time to build a reservoir to bring water from upstream. At first, he planned to use wood for the water trough, but that would result in significant leakage. Therefore, Hikaru used farming tools and manure to harden the ground with the soil he had from digging the reservoir. He made an inlet at the upper source. The foundation was built with earth, then blocks of hardened soil like concrete were placed into it. Hikaru focused on reinforcing the joints, while the elven tribe handled minor tasks. Thanks to their help, his fancy reservoir is now filled with clean water. As a result, exotic poisonous fish from another world also flow into Hikaru's village. Just as this, a fish dared to rebel and was immediately cut into grilled fish by him. It turns out that there are indeed fishes that must pay the price for their rebellion. Since these are dead forest fishes, no one dares to try them except Hikaru. He bit a piece and found it tasted like salmon. This can be made into sashimi then. When Tia and Lu tried it, both found the taste not bad at all. Seeing everyone liked the grilled fish, Hikaru planned to salt cure them when he caught more. With the water reservoir already in place, Hikaru decided to experiment with rice cultivation. Then Hikaru started digging the land, making his wives look on like they were closing a well. After finishing the digging, Hikaru let the water flow into both fields. He asked the Tia group to help sow rice in the fields. At first they seemed a bit flustered, but after some time, they got used to it very quickly. For pest control, Hikaru asked Jabutong's children for assistance. With the help of the versatile farming tool, the farmer's crop had ripened before his eyes. Then, Hikaru asked the Lia group to help harvest the rice, and everyone only needed a little time to finish. After harvesting the rice, he proceeded to dry it to remove moisture. Next, Hikaru created a rice machine from the versatile farming tool to produce grain. Finally, after several more steps, our village's rice was born. He asked Lu, the eldest wife, to make a small fire for cooking, but the other wives thought he was burning it instead. After the rice cooked, Hikaru forms the rice into balls to serve everyone. To make hand-formed rice, many steps are needed, so Lu seems a bit reluctant. But when they take a bite, all of them find it totally worth the effort Hikaru put in. He also adds some leftover salted fish as filling for the rice balls. And because it's too delicious, the others leave him only 1 grain of rice out of the whole village. Now Hikaru's village has 2 new areas, a reservoir and paddy fields. After sowing the seedlings, all the fairy women can use magic to clean stains, making Hikaru envy them. Not knowing how to use magic, the player character decides to build a bathtub. So he draws a design and shows it to the fairy sisters for reference, since these wives have never experienced hot water baths before. If the Leah group wants to bathe, they just need to jump into the river. But since the village chief seems to like this, everyone will follow his preference. To make a hot water bath, we first need to bring water from the reservoir, then fire bricks for a kiln, and finally build the bathtub. The problem Hikaru is facing now is where to dispose of the used water. Tia suggested he should use the Sora Mai as they are experts in cleaning dirt. In Hikaru's subconscious, Sora Mai are dirty monsters that send adventurers to their doom. So Tia had to fly into the forest to find Rimumu for Hikaru. And Hikaru immediately released a few into the water filter to see how they work. Even in the toilet bowl, they can clean everything up. The water filtration problem has been solved by Hikaru, so now all that's needed is to heat the water with firewood. When the farmer was gathering firewood, he noticed mushrooms were starting to grow on the wooden logs. Since arriving here, Hikaru has never dared to touch mushrooms because he fears they might be poisonous. According to wild forces, all mushrooms can be used. Scientific powers want to study them, while the aggressive ones want to destroy them so that Hikaru won't be afraid of them. In general, everyone has different ideas, and Hikaru is confused. So the Laotian youth decided to experiment with growing mushrooms on firewood, forgetting about the bathhouse. It wasn't until late in the evening that Hikaru had time to teach everyone how to use the bathhouse, but these wives are too stupid, so he had to demonstrate first. First, you have to take off your clothes, then go through a layer of rinsing before being allowed to soak in the hot water tub. Hikaru had just finished demonstrating when the Tia group stripped off and jumped into the bath with the village head. Since he is a married man, Hikaru asked for permission to go first, but Lu's wife allowed him to bathe with everyone, so there was no need to worry. Still, bathing together like this must be very embarrassing. The next morning, Hikaru's mushrooms had already grown on the logs, so he planned to use them for a mushroom stew. Meanwhile, the Kiro group found 5 more elf girls. Just like Tia, they are all relatives and migrated here together. With the population increasing, the village will need additional houses. By the way, Tia also suggested that Hikaru should rebuild his own house. Hearing this, everyone got excited about rebuilding their tribe and having more children to urinate on, making Hikaru cry silently. From Kiro's perspective, the owner gained 5 new wives again. Before meeting Hikaru, Kiro was just a lonely dog wandering in the dead forest. Since birth, Kiro had never lost to any male individual in hand-to-hand combat, so it soon became the forest lord. But one day, it surprisingly lost to a female, and Yuki became its queen from then on. In the forest, there are some species with young ones, but Kiro was not confident it could be a pillar of the family. And then one day, Kiro failed in a battle against the forest's king, the bear. Both were too injured to hunt and became prey for others. Therefore, Kiro and Yuki decided to migrate to the center of the forest, where even the bears dare not go, and met a male human living there. While other species could only hide and survive in the forest, this seemingly weak man boldly lived here. And then Kiro realized the power of the man came from the lever he held in his hand. It thought its life was over, but then he started sharing food with both of them. That was meat from a huge wild boar, and hunting such prey must be that strong. So both decided not to resist anymore and consider Hikaru their master. Not only did Hikaru build a place for it, but it also got delicious food to eat. In this way, Kiro's offspring grew in number, and the master's harem expanded. The only thing Kiro worried about was that the master didn't know they were hellhounds. Known as the nightmare of all species, now there is no need to worry because it feels very grateful to Hikaru. Finally, Hikaru's new house was completed, and it wasn't much different from the village hall. Tia and Lu also contributed to designing a part of the house, while the rest was carried by Hikaru and the elf tribe. Entering the house will be a very spacious living hall. To the left is Hikaru's private room, which is not less spacious. Opposite the bedroom is the dining area. Above it is the kitchen and the outdoor grilling area outside. In the basement is a large storage area for food and to detain editors. On the second floor of the house, Now the two wives of the farmer also have their own rooms, and the adjacent room has been carefully equipped with a locking system because it is the attic room. And from the second-floor window, Hikaru can observe the giant tree that has protected him for so long. Then Hikaru carved statues of the Kuro and placed them in the new house, making it very elegant. Today Hikaru planned to create a new dish that is kaji. But Lu's wife misunderstood and threw herself into the pot, causing her great fear. So Hikaru had to lead the two wives to the spice field. Here there are many types of plants that only grow in snowy regions, but they can be cultivated with proper tools and care. First, Hikaru will harvest the cardamom seeds. Although they look wilted, the seeds inside the plant are the main ingredient. Next, Hikaru harvested the ginger roots. Due to their moist nature, he asked the two wives to use magic to dry them. Then came the coriander seeds. He uses their dried fruits to make powder. Parsley is also an essential ingredient in curry. And when the scent of parsley wafts, hell dogs from 7 dorms go wild. Finally, Hikaru harvested some more spices, but when he returned, his wives were too bored and left. Actually, Lu noticed that parsley could repel hell dogs, so she took it to study. Tia is only good at fighting, so in the end, only Lai helped the village chief cook. To make curry, first put rabbit meat with fat into it. While waiting for the rabbit meat to cook, Hikaru takes the opportunity to grind other spices to make curry powder. The leftover water from the pan will be stir-fried with coriander seeds to create the distinctive aroma of curry. The scent they created made both the Kuro and the elf tribe eager for the new dish. After 7-7-4-9 steps, all Hikaru needs to do is cook the mixture. But then he realized he was missing something called nan, or also known as nan cake, a type of bread often eaten with curry. So the two started making nan cakes right away. Usually, nan cakes are baked in an oven, but since there's no oven, Hikaru uses a pan for convenience. Meanwhile, Lu and Tia were researching a herb called mint that could create a hell-destroying drug. But the smell of Hikaru's curry made both their stomachs stop working. It wasn't until late in the evening that Hikaru's curry was finally cooked and served with nan bread. Looking at the mixture Hikaru had just created, the others were too scared to eat it for fear he might come back. And only after seeing Hikaru enjoy it did they dare to try it themselves. Lu and Tia tasted a piece and praised it enthusiastically, even demanding to take it back for further research. Meanwhile, Hikaru was afraid that the complex spices he grew would scare everyone away. But before he could finish speaking, his wife had already cleaned out her bowl and was reaching for more. Lu and Tia took the mixed ingredients to tease Kuro's grandchildren. This dish was so well received by the villagers that it quickly disappeared. Seeing the villagers happy made Hikaru happy too. But just like last time with the hand-formed rice, they didn't leave a single bite for him. Winter finally arrived this year. When the snow starts falling, everyone will stay indoors, so Hikaru will prepare everything carefully. At that time, Jabutong will be in hibernation on the tree, so he takes advantage of it to ask him to make cushions for everyone. Lee's group will continue forging and making small tools. Meanwhile, Lu and Tia are asked by Hikaru to store food. Since having the Kuro clan hunt in winter is very difficult, he has to pickle and smoke the spices to keep them fresh longer. As for vegetables, Hikaru stacked the agricultural products into boxes placed on top of each other, then covered it with a layer of something on top. When the snow starts falling, it will accidentally create a natural refrigerator. It took Hikaru a lot of time to come up with this storage method, but his wives only need magic to do it. So Hikaru tried to cast the ice spell, but it remained ineffective as usual. Knowing it was impossible, yet for some reason he felt practicing it daily would make him succeed. That night, he went to his wife's room to learn how to use magic. While fire is a basic spell, without proper practice, one cannot perform it. Tia's control over stones is a very complex type of magic. Hikaru felt everyone was truly talented, while he only knew farming. But Lu believed he was the most talented because with his loving husband, wife and everyone else could settle here. From ancient times to now, no one has dared to settle in the dead forest, and Hikaru is the first person to do so. A blink of an eye and winter arrived, with snowfall covering everything around the village in white. When Hikaru visited his natural refrigerator he created, he found it was working very well. During the time he couldn't go outside to touch the grass, Hikaru took the opportunity to create some entertainment games. He made a chess set, a wooden go board, and even the classic reversey game. Then, Hikaru explained to everyone how to play and the rules of the games he just created, which might sound simple, but involve many strategies behind them. Hikaru praised Tai for understanding the rules quickly, causing Lujin's wife to show her face. Therefore, she challenged her close friend to a match since living with Hikaru, they had never fought before. And in the reversey game, the player from the research team failed to make any move against Tia. Thus, Lu decided to play dirty by pretending to knock over the board to replay the game. But Tia didn't care because she had magic to put things back in their place. Lu immediately cursed Tia for using magic without shame, but Tia thought the one who was about to lose and cheat was the real shameless one. Meanwhile, the two fairy ladies were very focused on playing chess. Even Kuro understood the rules of reversey and gave pointers to Tia. And Kuro's two children brought out the chessboard to play, but they played like they were in a decisive battle with each other instead. After being beaten by Tia, Lu had to solo against Kuro to regain her dignity. But she ended up not missing a single move from it. Then everyone gathered to play the face-down game, and this time, Hikaru wanted to get back at his beloved wife. He guessed that Kuro wouldn't understand the complex rules of Matsure. Yet it understood them perfectly and gave pointers to Tia. Thanks to Kuro's excellent performance, Tia won, while Hikaru came in last. They ended up sulking together in a corner because they lost to a dog. Since he wasn't good at 510. In the first attempt, Hikaru knocked down 8 pins, which was not bad. Since this was a different world, Hikaru called 10 pins 10 villains. Bowling is a game that doesn't require much brain power, so everyone loves it. Thanks to the games Hikaru created, everyone had an interesting winter. And when it's a cold winter with a pot of hot pot at home, it just can't be beat. Blinking his eyes, the field was already gone, and Hikaru could soon return to farming. He intended to give BTNG some potatoes when it woke up, but heard an alarm sound from air instead. From above the sky, a gigantic dragon suddenly appeared, roared fiercely, as if declaring this land belonged to him. Just appearing, the dragon shot out a fireball, which Lu and Tia had to work together to block. While Tia took turns extinguishing the fires that fell on the fields. Running into the forest was not a good idea because it couldn't escape its sight. But counterattacking seemed equally unfeasible. Hikaru doesn't want to leave here, and he wants to do something to protect everyone. Just as his resolve rises, the universal tool suddenly transforms into a sharp sword. Hikaru immediately throws it through the dragon's defensive barrier and destroys one of its wings before returning to his farmer's embrace. In the second throw, Hikaru shows the dragon who is the king of the forest. Although part of the field is damaged, the houses remain safe. Dragons are everywhere, but ones this big rarely meet them. Therefore, Hikaru realizes that the dragon might have been sent by someone, but Tia thinks it's controlled, so its rider must sit on the dragon. But in misfortune there is fortune. Thanks to Hikaru, the village gets a rare roasted dragon meal. Legend has it that a king once craved dragon meat, so much he sent an army to hunt dragons at their cave entrance. After some preparation, the chest meat was wrapped in leaves and steamed by Hikaru. The firm tail meat was used for steak, while the rest of the tail was put into a stew with vegetables. Usually the skin is so tough, but its meat turned out soft and delicious. From this encounter, Lu and Tia realized they had to fight against the Kuro clan and were lucky just to meet them for the first time. Meanwhile, quite far from Hikaru's village was the castle of the King of Demons. Now the 4 heavenly kings are extremely worried because the giant dragon dispatched by their group was defeated by a human in 2 beats of a heart. The treasury of the demon kingdom is now gradually running out, so they should prepare to resign. In the dragon's lair, Gucci also reported to the Dragon King what he saw in the battle. He thinks that if it were the Dragon King, the chance of blocking Hikaru's sword would be almost 0. Therefore, both decided not to hold grudges against him anymore. The meat is indeed better than usual, but Hikaru still feels something is missing. Finally, Gucci's vineyard was ready for harvest, so he decided to make wine. It seems that the other world also has wine, as everyone enthusiastically harvested. Just crush the grapes and ferment them, and we will have a good wine shell. Hikaru made everyone a manual grape crusher, while he would stand below to change barrels for grape juice. Incidentally, these barrels are slightly curved at the bottom to prevent water from leaking out. Because this is the first time TA and everyone has produced wine in this way, both of us slipped and fell while stomping grapes. I suggest using some signal for all of us to move together. Therefore, the fairy race suggested that everyone should dance to the traditional song of the village. As soon as everyone's voices rose up with the singing, they started dancing to the music. Even the fierce Tia was swept away by that cheerful melody. Thanks to this, the first grape juice dripped into the barrel. Tia danced very happily and invited her best friend to dance along. And Tia's best friend, Hikaru, carried his bundle up to join in the fun too. After a day of hard work, everyone finally got 16 barrels of crushed grapes and just need to ferment them now. 16 barrels might be too much for Hikaru though. It's like throwing salt into the sea compared to the elves. Now Heaven has to beg Agriculture God for forgiveness because Hikaru seems very happy living here. But his daughter doesn't seem to forgive him because the sword Hikaru used in battle is a holy sword of Grimm that can drain human vitality. But since he has a strong body, Hikaru can still master the skill even without training. Agriculture God is also very angry because Heaven's statue that he carved so well turned out to be an old man with a weak voice. Today, Hikaru saw a familiar scene again. And this time, the girl being targeted by the Kuro group is Florum, Lu's younger sister. After hearing about her sister being pursued by that little angelic demon, she rushed here to help. Little did she know that now your sister has become someone else's wife, and even befriended that angelic demon. When Florum saw Hikaru, she immediately criticized him as being too easy and naive, which made the Kuro clan angry. After learning that Hikaru was the owner of Hellhounds and had just defeated a chaotic dragon, Florum went crazy with jealousy. Now that Hikaru knows the Kuro are Hellwolves, he can't help but admire them. That night, Hikaru prepared a lavish meal to celebrate his new wife. After numerous experiments, Hikaru finally created tofu and invited Florum to try it. Unfortunately, it wasn't served with miso soup or soy sauce, which would have made it even better. All of it was made from fermented soybeans, but the foreign wives had no concept of microorganisms like mold. So Florum took the opportunity to write down what her father-in-law just said in her notebook. A few days later, Florum left with a promise to find miso soup and soy sauce for the village. After a month, Florum returned with an impressive entourage and represents the maids and wishes to be allowed to serve Hikaru. She also brought a pair of dairy cows, which made Hikaru happy, as we will soon have butter and milk. Now, Hikaru's village has diverse clans like the Hellhound clan, Lu's demon lineage clan, and Tia's high-level fairy clan, while the angel clan only consists of Tia herself. Afraid of being tricked by her close friend, Tia asks for permission to go out for a few days to find allies. Upon returning, Tia brought along several warriors, as well as the striped god clan and a chicken that can lay eggs. Thanks to everyone's efforts, the civilization of the village began to develop more. He realized that the servants here belong to the Oni demon tribe, and it seems most people from other worlds don't care much about fancy dining. So Hikaru taught the maids cooking techniques to make them interested in cooking. After a few days of practice, they created a wild smoked rabbit dish that looked incredibly untamed. Tia brought back 3 angel warriors, so guarding the village was assigned to them. The Lin deity tribe helped Hikaru with manual tasks. Since he couldn't distinguish them, Hikaru wore a scarf indicating the chief of his tribe. In just 2 short years, the number of settlers in his village had multiplied greatly. As soon as Tia arrived, she brought many more elven tribespeople to settle here, and they were all girls, making Hikaru start fearing childbirth. Days passed after that. Hikaru gathered the tribal leaders to announce something. At first, Hikaru only lived in a small hut, but now it has developed into a village. So he wants to name it. Lu suggested naming it after his own name, but Hikaru found it very silly. So the Oni tribe suggested naming it after the dead forest, but the name sounded too dark. Just then, Jabutong proposed that Hikaru open the house door. And when he saw the giant tree in front of him, he decided to name it the Tree Village. To celebrate the new village name, Hikaru brought out 16 barrels of wine from yesterday to hold a celebration party. Everyone agreed to call him the village chief, because besides Hikaru, who else would be more deserving? That night, everyone in the village got so drunk, they forgot their way home. In his drunken state, Tia called out for the village chief to join them. Honestly speaking, everything that has happened up until today feels like a dream to Hikaru. It had been a long time since Hikaru drank wine, and it tasted quite sweet. Seeing her husband drinking with their close friend, Lu suddenly woke up and demanded to join in. After winter ended, many people moved here to settle down, and Hikaru officially became the village chief. Calling him village chief for show, but Hikaru's daily tasks remained unchanged. At this moment, a girl from the angel tribe announced that the demon kingdom sent an envoy. These are the 4 kings of the demon kingdom Bijal, and he came here to meet with Hikaru. To prove their friendly relations, Pizzle gave Hikaru a small gift, along with a message from the king of devils about the land where Hikaru is living. Initially, Hikaru planned to consult with Lu and Tia, but both trusted his decision as the village chief. Since everyone is living in the devil's territory, Hikaru asked for 10% tax, which surprised Pizzle greatly. The king of devils had data that not only did Hikaru not want Innova, but also wanted to pay taxes to him. He will pay 10% of the harvested crops to the king, while items like milk, eggs, and honey won't be included. Before the envoy left, Hikaru also sent a symbolic gift to the King of Devils for their friendship. After the recent discussion, Lu was very happy, because from now on everyone will receive protection from the King of Devils. Moreover, a 10% tax is no different from a gift, since it would usually be 50-60%. Additionally, being sent only once a year is also quite convenient. Since they don't live here, they won't know how much harvest there is, and Hikaru might take a little bit. And the present Ma King gave them was a vial of universal medicine, which made Lu extremely happy. Hikaru's decision to submit to the Ma King surprised the 4 heavenly kings. Under Hikaru's rule are many other significant figures, like the Dragon Maiden Princess, and the current strongest being from the Angel tribe. The one who led Bijal to meet the village chief was the Assassin Angel. Not to mention, there is also a pack of hellhounds guarding the village. Therefore, their submission to the Ma King is truly incomprehensible. 6 red apples were what Hikaru gave to the Ma King previously. Afraid it might be toxic, the 4 heavenly kings decided to test it first, but unexpectedly, it was very delicious. Pizzle noticed that the spider silk wrapping outside, a species of creature that fights on equal footing with the previous king of demons, causing the young heavenly kings to cry out in surprise. The next day, the Florum line and their subordinates personally visited Hikaru's village to gift him a precious sword. Gucci explained that, although they are far apart as neighbors, they asked about it through a messenger dragon. But the dragon just plopped down in front of Hikaru without much ado. Then, Florum transformed into human form for easier conversation. He had to choose his words carefully to avoid alarming Hikaru. Otherwise, it would be like scaring a grasshopper. Because the guest came to visit, Hikaru hosted a small feast for Florum. The food and wine here are too delicious that he wants to live here permanently. But Gucci does not allow it. Before leaving, Hikaru also gave Florum a bag of apples so he could nibble on them gradually. From these 2 stories, Hikaru realized he needs to prepare ways to diplomacy with neighboring kingdoms. If greeting guests at the village gate does not seem right, but inviting them into his house suddenly is also not proper, so he wants to build a guest house. Initially, Hikaru planned to build a house large enough for 4 people, but Rei suggested he should make it bigger. Because they had to travel a long distance here, build it large enough for about 30 people so they can be comfortable. A few days later, Hikaru began constructing the guest house with a structure similar to other houses, while also teaching them how to welcome guests. Usually, Jabutong would ring a bell as an alarm signal. The Angel tribe would escort the guests in, whereas the Cloud tribe would raise their spirits because they thought the village was under attack. Like this, guests might run away. Therefore, Hikaru asked Team Tia to make a bell so Jabutong could easily distinguish it. As for welcoming guests, Hikaru planned to go with Lu and Team Tia only. However, everyone disagreed because the enemy might disguise as guests. So the guest reception team added a few new members. Florum also wanted to join in, so Hikaru had his sister-in-law guard during the night when the guests stayed over, because the Maka dragon clan can stay awake for days without sleeping. After preparing everything, the first guests finally arrived. They came from Hu Lin village in the eastern mountains and wanted to befriend Da Shu village. The village leader was very honored to welcome everyone, but Lu wanted the guys to count the exact number of people coming along beforehand. As soon as he finished speaking, the kids hiding outside were chased out by hellhounds. Lu also hoped that the guests would not act recklessly, since there were always guards in the village. Then she led them to the guest house. Before the pretty maidservants, the male animal humans were extremely interested. Just as Hikaru felt that welcoming guests was going smoothly, Lu and Tia suddenly closed the door tightly. Because the previous visitors all brought gifts, but these ones don't seem eager to make friends at all. They might not be enemies, but leaving 2 people hiding in the bushes means Lu has to raise her vigilance a notch. Actually, the 3 heavenly beings had already noticed the old man and grandson hiding, but they thought this group was too smelly to pose any threat. That day, Hikaru realized that the food prepared by the maidservants for the guests was much less fancy than before, because coming empty-handed is completely different from bringing gifts. Seeing these guests had to eat simple meals, Hikaru decided to invite them some good wine, which made the maid and quite uncomfortable. Lu also advised her husband to forget that idea, as they still need to talk, and everyone in the village opposes serving alcohol to guests. But Hikaru had anticipated this issue, and only allowed each person to have 2 cups at most. Then Hikaru came to talk and ask about the town of Huling. It is said it was founded about 1000 years ago, but according to them, only around 500 years. The town of Huling mainly lives by hunting and mining, trading with human villages on the other side of the mountain. But lately they have encountered some problems, so trade has been halted. And during their search for new partners, they arrived at the town of Great Support. Since it was their first time here, the 2 elders had to hide in the bushes, just in case something unexpected happened, and they could run back to inform the town. After confirming that the other side is not an enemy, Hikaru decided to sit down for negotiations with the town of Huling. As the town of Huling does not have currency, they usually trade by exchanging goods. However, on behalf of the town of Huling, they hope Hikaru can bring goods over to their village, as moving through the dead forest is very difficult. Although Hikaru knew little about the forest, he could still ask the Kuro to transport goods. Village Lin has products made from minerals such as glassware, iron paint, and many other things, so they want to trade foodstuffs with Great Thicket Village, and Hikaru agreed. Thus, trade between the two villages was officially established. As for gifts, since Village Lin does not have that custom, they hope Hikaru can understand. Although the village is quite poor, he promised to prepare something next time, but Hikaru said simple gifts are just a heart placed above material things. A few days later, Tia took over from Hikaru to keep the market of Village Lin. Hikaru also wanted to go, but Lu advised the village leader should stay home. Normally, it would take about 10 days to get there, but in exchange for a barrel of wine, Florim agreed to transport everyone. After that, Florim visited quite often, and each time he got so drunk his consciousness was gone. Each time the old dragon brought gifts, everyone respected him. After a period of travel, Florim transported everyone to Village Huln, shocking the beastfolk greatly. At first, they were all afraid to try the local produce. But when Tia used the tactic of tasting it, many people responded positively. All of Florim's wine was sold out, so tonight Hikaru will treat him to a splendid meal. From Village Huln, they proposed sending 20 young girls to study in Great Tree Village. But Hikaru agreed only if a few strong young men were also sent, as the village urgently needed more males. A few days later, the girls from Village Huln arrived to settle down. Being of the dark human tribe, they spoke very modestly, so Hikaru told them to be more relaxed. They also brought a few young girls, as requested by Hikaru Koma, who said they were children causing the village chief to faint with shock. But they are actually the future of the Great Forest Village. It seems that the Beastfolk tribe is afraid of being chased away by Hikaru, so everyone appears worried, but of course, there's no such thing. The newcomers seem to have no issues. Koma notes they fainted quite a few times when meeting some of Hikaru's beasts. The Beastfolk can use magic too, making Hikaru wonder if anyone else besides him cannot use it. The Oni maidens all know how to use fire and water magic. The higher-ranking fairy tribes can use most spells, while the light tribe specializes in water magic. Even his pets, even the janitors, can scream out flames, making Hikaru feel extremely heartbroken. But before you learn magic, you need to do your job well. Just at this moment, a large earthquake suddenly occurred, because not far away, the Bear King and the Snake King were fighting each other. If they keep fighting like that, it could easily cause damage to the village, so intervening directly is quite dangerous. So Hikaru decided to call both of them to save some trouble reconciling later. Then, Hikaru was taken by the warrior Angel to the location where the two monsters' battle would take place. The two monsters were fighting when suddenly, they saw Hikaru flying in the sky. And that was their last sight because soon after, both of them became food ingredients. He put a lot of herbs and wine into the pot, and after several dozen minutes, the bear stew with wine came out, making the bears regret using precious wine for cooking. The second dish was crispy fried snake, and Hikaru noticed it tasted very much like fried chicken. To find new seasonings, Hikaru went to Florim's research room to ask his sister-in-law to create a microbe-destroying substance. Florim remembered what Hikaru said when he first arrived here, so she made him a spray that could be used on food to repel germs. As for soy sauce and miso soup, it wasn't very feasible because the small one had ruined 3 pots already. Next, Hikaru went to the chicken coop and got a few eggs. He beat the eggs with vinegar made from fermented apples to create mas-oni sauce to go with the fried snake. By the way, Hikaru also taught his children how to make miso soup. First, he boiled soaked soybeans in water, then ground them up to create koji fungus using farm tools and energy. He added salt to the koji before pressing it under a barrel, then let it ferment underground for several months. The longer, the better. At this moment, Lu informs Hikaru that guests are waiting at the village gate. These guests are short people, led by one named Donabin. They heard the village of giant trees has good wine to taste. But the villagers do not agree to let strangers use such precious wine. Though they have no money, these 3 are masters of wine. They risked their lives to make wine here because they noticed the village had many. Hearing about the good wine, the short people's eyes lit up like car headlights. At this point, all 3 demonstrated their winemaking techniques for the village chief to see. Hikaru tasted a sip of the corn alcohol they just made and found it very heavy. Thanks to this, the Donabin group was allowed to stay in the village to make alcohol. That night, Hikaru hosted a feast to welcome the beast folk and the short people. And at feasts like these, King Dororim could not be absent. Although he always gets drunk after just a few sips and can't find his way home, Donabin raised his glass, emptying it with Hikaru for accepting everyone to live here. Besides him, the whole village consists of dwarves, and most importantly, their presence significantly increased the male population ratio. By the way, Hikaru asked if Donabin had any interest in anyone so he could arrange a marriage, but the short people's preference is for girls with dewy skin. Saying this would get Hikaru killed. The next morning, a huge dragon with fierce aura flew towards the Great Tree Village. Hikaru was going to handle it before it caused damage to the village, but he didn't get a chance as Do-Ri-M pushed him out. Just then, another dragon flew in, so Hikaru decided to deal with it immediately. But his throw went off course. Hikaru was about to throw another one when Gucci suddenly stopped him, because the 3 dragons were actually Do-Ri-M's wife and daughter. The thing is, recently, Do-Ri-M often sneaks out with his family to visit Hikaru's village for drinks, which has made them suspicious. Florem thinks that Koma and his mother are just being jealous for no reason, while Koma secretly takes things from the treasury, who wouldn't suspect him. Hikaru realized he was partly at fault because he built Florem a house to rest in when working on it. Florem also explained to the roof that he is conducting diplomacy, with Koma stammering, which proves he's hiding something, making him affirm his integrity like his father's. By the way, Hikaru also apologized to the mother and daughter for being a bit rude just now, and the mother and daughter also apologized to Hikaru because they also had intentions to attack him. All misunderstandings have been resolved, but NCNH Florem still hopes that he drinks less alcohol. After this story, Florem's wife finally understood how important diplomacy is. In terms of combat strength, they are at the top of the food chain, yet were dominated by that guy. If Jabutong didn't intervene in time just now, Grata might not be standing here anymore right now. So she decided to assign her daughter an important task, which is to live here for a while. Since they cannot resist Hikaru's power, at least don't let it turn towards our dragon clan. Dorium doesn't want his daughter living in a strange place, but he also dares not defy NCNH. Female supremacy even extends to the dragons. Rusty is Dorium's daughter, so Hikaru fully allows her to stay here. Because Rusty is still young, she doesn't know how to control her power, so wherever she goes, everything gets destroyed, making the gods of thunder extremely angry. The only thing Rusty can do well is stay young, but Dorium wants Hikaru to give her a task. Since Grata came here, the Kuro have been acting up. Cows and chickens are so scared, they can't lay eggs or produce milk anymore. Florem is also from the dragon clan, but with him always being like that, who wouldn't be afraid? It looks funny, but the dragon clan far surpasses all other species in both strength and intelligence. That's why Hikaru decided to assign Rusty the task of hosting guests, making the 4 heavenly kings tremble with fear. And when facing the princess of the dragon clan, Bezel turns pale and his face contorts, stuttering and crying without being able to speak properly. With the dragon princess handling diplomacy for Hikaru now, he doesn't give a damn about anyone's father or son. Because the strength of the forest village has grown, Pizzle decided to use underhanded tactics to deal with it. The next morning, he asked his daughter Florem to investigate the village's military strength without being reckless. Before entering the village, Florem used to observe the village from above. Then she entered the village as a guest and was greeted by Rusty. This surprised Florem like a fairy, because Rusty is known for being a fierce dragon. Yet this legendary dragon is now leading her around to tour the village's agricultural gardens. Since the spirit village envoy just arrived in the village, Rusty had to leave Florem alone. Seizing the opportunity, Florem investigated the village's military strength. If the Demon King concentrated his army again, we could still face them off. But Florem did not expect that the destroyer Angel Ray was living here. Along with her, there is the Makazong Princess Lulusi, plus a high-level elf clan specialized in abducting young men. For a long time, Florem had always been confident as one of the top mages in the Demon Kingdom, but standing before the Hellhounds and mini spider demons, she had to back down. After some investigation, Florem drew up a class hierarchy chart of the village. At first, she thought Rusty was the leader, but there is another person above him called the village head. Right then, Florem accidentally met Hikaru, who had just returned from working in the fields. His farmer's appearance made her think that Hikaru was a regular farmer. And when Rusty told her that he defeated her mother, Florem turned pale with fear because she had just been disrespectful to him earlier. Since then, Florem has officially lived here and become Rusty's friend, which makes Hikaru very happy. But for some reason, every time she meets him, she trembles all over. The slim that Tia brought back the day before had grown into various colors. Seeing it seemed harmless, Hikaru ignored them. But one day, everyone discovered a snail had polished off an entire barrel of precious wine. Even Florem, who drinks a lot, could only finish half a barrel. Therefore, the Wine Drunkens Guild, led by Tia, demanded punishment for the snail that caused the damage. Thus, the trial to judge the snail officially began. Hikaru locked it up for a while, but faced opposition from everyone. But Florem advised them to be lenient, as in the end, it was just a small snail. Since then, every time there's a party, that snail contributes its share of fun to everyone. While one person might enjoy it, not all do. Autumn is the best season for farming, but Hikaru gets hungry faster. So Hikaru decided to make a mushroom hot pot during the cold weather. And with seafood added, it would be perfect. But in this world, there's no concept of seafood, so Hikaru had to explain to everyone. And the shrimp and crabs that Hikaru mentioned are terrifying to Tia and Tia. Seeing Hikaru craving seafood, Florum suggested a trip to the Demon Kingdom, where there's a port. Hoping they might find the types of fish Hikaru talked about. As soon as he finished talking, Rusty decided to set off immediately to find the seafood. Because whenever Hikaru talks about new food, all the wives get very excited. 3 days later, Rusty's group returned with a merchant from the Ma country. The merchant then introduced various types of seafood that are the pride of the town. Even harmless seaweed that people usually discard was sought out by him. Dried and brought to Hikaru's place. He came here today for 3 reasons. 1 is to greet the village. 2 is to propose a long-term cooperation agreement, and 3 is to become an authorized merchant. Since the crops Hikaru grows are of very high quality, if given a chance, he could increase their value many times over. As the merchant works with the village frequently, he managed to get such an opportunity. After days' hard work, the merchant really wants to taste the village's wine during the next transaction, but was opposed by several frogs. Through recent negotiations, Hikaru realized this is a very cunning merchant. If not for Lu and Tia by his side, he would have been spun around like a top. When leaving, there seemed to be a hint of panic on his face due to just getting scratched. As for the merchant, his impression of the village is that it's absolutely terrifying. Goron is the representative of the largest guild in the port town. Subordinates reported that a group of strangers with agricultural products wanted to meet Goron directly. At first, Goron intended to decline, because the head of such matters is busy with countless tasks, but his business instinct told him not to reject them. Goron thanked his instinct, as the subordinate mentioned was Miss Florum, daughter of Duke Pizzle. If he had sent her away just now, this head might no longer exist, and when he learned that the one beside Florum was a fierce dragon, Goron nearly wet himself. This business carries many risks. If he dared to deal with them both, he would definitely do business directly with the king. Then Rusty brought the village's precious agricultural products to offer Goron. In return, he had to help her find a few things. Otherwise, he has to help her find a few things. Goron began to notice the unpleasant smell when the dragon was pressuring him, while the goddess surrounded them. When Koma opened the cloth, Goron realized it was a type of fruit that was very popular in the capital city. Moreover, since they brought so many of them, this deal could be huge. He would have to suck up and trade these rare fruits for small fish from the town. When Koma knew everyone would sign the agreement at the great forest village deep within the dead forest, he discovered a truth. It turned out that only rain and dew fell from the sky. Then Goron was led by Rusty to the castle to introduce himself to his parents, followed by the village elders who made him want to use his heart. This trip brought Goron the biggest deal of his life. But he was also intimidated by that scary group. And thanks to the merchant Goron, Hikaru and everyone were able to enjoy the sour and spicy Thai hot pot. A few days later, a white dragon appeared before the village, so it was called the third invasion of dragons by Hikaru. The hunter angels had discovered this beforehand, but their strength could not repel the dragon tribe. Hikaru feared it might be an old friend of his senior Duri M and didn't rush to attack. But it suddenly taunted Hikaru, forcing him to show who was the boss of the forest. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately shot a spear towards the dragon like a bolt, and on the second throw, he only hit its wing to knock it out. After being defeated by Hikaru, the white dragon transformed into human form and surrendered to Hikaru with a very mocking attitude. Just as the Kuro were about to attack the roast meat, Duri M timely appeared to rescue them. The dragon that just watched Hikaru was Duri M's sister named Harukin. Hearing her granddaughter had gotten married, she rushed here immediately to see what kind of son-in-law her grandchild has. Hikaru turned to settle accounts with the old friend, but Duri M said this is based on hearsay and not his own words. They say the son-in-law is very strong, so Harukin decided to test him a little. But according to Duri M, she was angry chopping wood because her granddaughter got married before her. So Hikaru warned that she can come play, but not cause trouble for others, and especially not destroy other people's homes. In the end, Harukin was punished by Hikaru with 36 minutes of public service work, looking very guilty. And deservedly so. That night, Harukin was jealous of Florum because they get to eat well every day like this. Rusty must stand up to apologize to the village chief because the grandchild caused more trouble than the child. Harukin heard there are many interesting games in the village and wants to challenge the village chief to a match. Hikaru was about to explain the rules of the game to Harukin, but she doesn't need it as everything must be tried to know. But instead of playing happily, the grumpy grandma wanted to make something extreme for the match to be tense. Since there is nothing here to cause extreme discomfort, everyone usually has to endure punishment by undressing. Harukin immediately agreed because for the Dragon Clan, undressing can be considered a form of humiliation. At first, Hikaru was very confident as the new generation just arrived and seemed unfamiliar with the rules. But after playing just a few rounds, Hikaru only had his underwear left on. He didn't understand why they could play so well. Perhaps the clan possesses supreme magic for cheating. But when he saw Harukan playing and asking questions, he realized his concerns were unnecessary. After a series of losses that were humiliating, Hikaru finally had the chance to win. However, the last card pushed him to the bottom of society, causing Hikaru to lose several pieces right in front of so many enemy pawns. Meanwhile, the Demon King's army was very worried because the visiting dragon Harukan just paid a visit to the Great Tree Village. Recently, the Demon Queen's daughter has suddenly been acting very coldly, which makes him feel very stressed. After the third invasion by dragons, Harukan came here unexpectedly. The sentence, she could do everything exceptionally well, though she often complains and is extremely lazy. Therefore, Hikaru assigned Harukan arduous tasks that made him cry bitterly before becoming a teacher for the village's children. A few days later, the sugarcane snake people unexpectedly offered gifts to the giant tree village in hopes of being spared because the sons of Kuro had conquered the dungeons in the forest, forcing them to leave their place of residence. Although they submitted to Hikaru, he used some crops from his father-in-law to trade for their precious minerals. Due to cultural differences, he designed simple clothing for the snake people so they could trade goods with the village. Not stopping there, the Lamia tribe helped Hikaru transport goods, making him very happy to find a trustworthy neighboring village. To conduct more business, Hikaru decided to expand the area of his fields. That night, the demon villagers hoped that the princess could build an army to reclaim Miss Florum from the giant tree village, and she agreed. That night, Florum was working when Pizzle suddenly teleported to visit her daughter. He told his daughter that the princess is gathering troops to start a war. And the ones behind pumping those thoughts into the princess's head are what Florum calls the trio of idiots. But when she knew the princess planned to attack the Great Tree Village, she was extremely surprised, because the report she sent before clearly stated about the unreasonable strength of the village, but being too unreasonable made them not believe it. Pizzle tried to explain to the king, but he spoiled his daughter. Florum wanted to take her father's place in explaining, but if she did so, she would be suspected of being a rival. The Ma King's army will march out tomorrow morning, so Pygel hopes someone from the village can show them the true power. If the Rusty family finds out, the Kingdom of Darkness will officially come to an end. Therefore, Florum asked the snake people to engage in combat with the Ma Kingdom army, forcing them to choose it as their top strategy. After the recent battle, the trio of fools also requested permission to participate in customs. Hikaru was willing to let them join, but all three seem to have gone through something terrible. Since they are all familiar to Florum, they will work under her command. Besides the trio of fools, Princess Iuri was brought here as well. Florum explained that she is a student from Ma Kingdom coming to visit our village. After Hikaru left, Florum reminded them all to be good and especially not to reveal their true identities. At the same time, they called each other by nicknames like when they were young. Then, Florum led Princess Iuri and the trio of fools to tour the fields in the village. Here, Iuri also witnessed the apple trending during this period, as only nobles' high society events feature such fruits. When Bonjai of Le Trio accidentally revealed their noble status. Whoever conquers this village is a big deal. Luckily, Lee was busy gardening, so she only heard snippets of it. Then Iuri was welcomed by Rusty at the guest house. The three urchins refused to stay in such a shabby place and decided to sneak back to the Kingdom of Devils tonight. But before they could reach the gate, they were knocked out by some rocks. The next morning, they faced the blacksmiths. Henceforth, the children promised to work diligently. This was also Iuri's first time seeing humans riding hellhounds. A single creature entering the city could cause a disaster. Iuri never expected to find such a wonderful place outside the Ma Kingdom, where different races live in peace with each other. Once weapons are drawn, even if burned by dragons, one must endure. Iuri did not expect there to be real dragons in the village. Florum doesn't understand why a princess would dare attack this place. Iuri blames her for it. Upon hearing that her dear friend is being held captive here as a hostage, she feels extremely worried. After a day of office work, they are very happy with light tasks and delicious food. Lu came to greet the new people in the village. Hikaru noticed lately her wife has been staying in adult form all the time, even she doesn't know why. The princess decided the next day to help everyone with farming work, which surprised the three foolish ones greatly. They accidentally called Iuri princess, so she dragged them to the fields for work. Although manual labor was very tiring, they got to enjoy delicious meals in return. In this village, Iuri truly learned many useful things and is very grateful to everyone. Before leaving, the young human-animal tribe gave Iuri some sweet cakes made from recently harvested grain. Despite wanting to go back with the princess, they insisted that they still have much to learn in the village. Then Princess Iuri was personally brought back to her kingdom by King Pidja. Since Iuri returned, The Demon King noticed his daughter had become very serious, always busy and not bothering to talk to him anymore. According to Pidja, the princess is very interested in politics and diplomacy, showing that she has matured. However, the Demon King interprets maturity figuratively and decides to find the culprit to settle accounts. Shortly after Iiri returned home, the village was busy harvesting to prepare for winter. After a year, the crop yield was so abundant that the storage houses were no longer sufficient. Such a bountiful harvest is something to be happy about, but too much of anything can be problematic. Therefore, Rusty asks Hikaru to share the surplus with his father and grandparents. Speaking of Haruken's parents, his father is the Dragon King living in the north, while his mother is the Storm Dragon King residing on the southern continent, which left the entire village amazed at their impressive backgrounds. On the way to deliver the harvest to his parents, Rusty also brought some of it to Goron and was asked to destroy a water monster. In return, they decided to share some of the meat with Rusty to take back for Hikaru to make a hot pot. Haruken returned from the northern continent with some new immigrants. Unlike the high-class fairy clan like Tia's group who live in forests, they are called mountain elves because they reside in mountains. Seeing them struggling to find food, Haruken brought them here. From then on, the mountain elves officially joined the village. However, there is no more space in the village for now, so they will have to wait a while. Due to their long hunting experience, the mountain elves are well equipped for the hunt. But inside the dead forest, all monsters are of high level, so they gradually fell into an ambush. So Hikaru advised them not to push too hard, or they might overdo it. At this moment, Hikaru is experimenting with pottery and failed on his first attempt. To make pottery, one needs clay. Since talking about clay, Iya volunteered to search for some as the group was familiar with mountain paths. Thanks to the pile of clay brought back by the mountain elves, Hikaru successfully created his first pottery jars. A few days later, a dungeon has been discovered in the northern mountains, so Lear requested permission to form an exploration team. The team will consist of 2 elves, a hellhound, and a demigod for absolute safety. Meanwhile, Hikaru is building a men's bathhouse, while everyone goes on the mission for Donovan. Zaga, or the old friend, sometimes comes here to rest. During the opportunity, Rusty decided to poison the village chief and was caught by Florum. Therefore, Florum had to explain that they are at the bottom of the food chain, so should not do anything unnecessary. Soon after, the reconnaissance group returned, and Tia suggested patrolling the northern dungeon as they discovered a bloodthirsty snake species, which is very important for the fairy race. Its meat not only tastes good, but also improves marital life and is very beneficial for conception. As soon as she finished speaking, these guys started imagining having children with the village chief, making Hikaru use a delaying tactic. Winter has begun shortly after, and Lu feels unusually tired lately. Lu hopes Hikaru won't worry too much since she only has a mild fever and slight nausea. Besides craving some sour food, Sina informed the village chief of good news that his wife is pregnant based on Lu's symptoms. Today is another peaceful morning like any other. Now Lu's belly has grown a bit, and when the village chief was found to be pregnant, everyone in the village was extremely surprised. That's also why she can't transform into her mini form anymore. Despite being pregnant, Lu still visits the herb field every morning. After living here for some time, observing the maid's work has become a habit for Hikaru. These days, he doesn't have to wake up early anymore, because the maids insist on waking him up before him. Last night, the Soramai wine spirit intruded into the warehouse and drank a small barrel of wine, making him very angry. After receiving the report round, it's time for breakfast. Since the dining hall can't accommodate everyone, people eat breakfast in 3 batches. Batch 1 usually consists of the village pillars, the second wave is for the maids, and the third usually consists of those who miss the first 2 waves. Haruken sometimes oversleeps past noon and skips the 3rd meal. Florum is almost turning into a mad scientist, trying to create miso soup for the village chief, but has yet to succeed. The angel assassins also take the opportunity to report to Hikaru while he eats breakfast. They look so serious all the time, but they are surprisingly lazy in their daily lives. Apart from fighting, they don't know what else to do, but protecting the village is more than enough for him. Here, Hikaru hasn't seen any harmful insects, so he temporarily calls this black thing an insect. Thanks to Kuro and Jabutong's offspring, it was eradicated by agricultural tools before it could cause any damage to crops. The fields are expanding, making the care more labor-intensive. But seeing the produce grow makes him happy with the results of his efforts. After finishing the fields, Group N will prepare lunch so everyone can have it right there in the field. At first, Group Ray was shocked to learn that Hikaru eats 3 meals a day because people from the other world are not used to having lunch. But living here, he wants them not to worry about food. And they take advantage of lunchtime to report on what happened in the morning. Until now, Hikaru focused only on growing crops, but now he grows flowers to add more colors to life. Besides farming, Hikaru also produces small items for the villagers. Thanks to the versatile tool, even a novice like Hikaru can do everything well. Occasionally, Hikaru also comes to watch military training. Although they know no one would dare to attack their village, group, and suggests practicing to prepare for any uncertainty. Besides, training is also a way for the maids to maintain their figures. Realizing the importance of training, Hikaru fought with the wooden post for exactly 2 minutes. Since he was not good at using swords, Hikaru switched to throwing daggers but could not do it well either, so he used VIP boosts to make it faster. As the sun began to set, everyone returned home to prepare for dinner. Every few days, the maids would introduce a new dish. Although it was terrible, Hikaru still had to try and enjoy the meal. Seeing the queen of the Ghost Kingdom wearing a nice dress, Hikaru asked Jabutong to make one for Iori. After finishing dinner, Hikaru took a bath in the men's bathing house. Because with a bathing house, he could not fully enjoy the pleasure of soaking in the tub. After bathing, Hikaru will go rest, but this is when he feels the most tense. Because since Lu became pregnant, all the fairy maidens have been lurking to steal Hikaru. I don't know when it started, but the village chief's quarters now have many hidden spots. But no matter what happens, Hikaru feels very happy because he was given a second chance at life by God. The Lun people continue to produce good wines. At first, I thought they were just drunkards, but in reality, they always stay sober to make the best wine. Since they don't drink, for Hikaru, the leftover brews from the short-statured people are already quite good. To create even more types of good wines, the Donalban group wants Hikaru to triple the current grape production. At this moment, Senna informs Hikaru that there is a strange person appearing in the village. Hikaru ran out to see and found he was kneeling in front of the statue of God. Even the gatekeepers, angels, and Jabutong didn't dare move because he is the ancestor of vampires. Hearing that Lu is pregnant, the vampire patriarch Walgreens came here to inquire. Normally, vampires increase their population through blood packs, so a pregnant vampire is extremely rare. Now Walgreens is over 4,000 years old, but looks no different from my neighbor. To live that long, vampires have to sacrifice by erasing memories. The last time Valgrist erased memories was about 200 years ago, which is why he looks so young now. He apologized to Hikaru for 10. At first, he just silently watched Lu and left. But then Valgrist was attracted by the statue of God, unconsciously possessing it. At birth, he was fortunate to speak with God because he was the first vampire. Due to having his memories erased a few hundred years ago, he had completely forgotten what God looked like. That's why when he saw the statue under the tree, he was extremely amazed. Therefore, Valgrith asked Hikaru if he could take the statue away, but Hikaru refused as it belonged to the village. But if Valgrith didn't mind, Hikaru would personally make a new one for him, which would make the ancestor very happy. After Hikaru finished carving it, Valgrith subconsciously cursed the statue. Valgrith offered payment, but the village leader refused as he disapproved of buying and selling spirits. Before leaving, he reminded the sisters to take care of their health. At the same time, thank Hikaru for everything and he will think of something else to repay him. After talking with the ancestor for a while, Hikaru realized that he was friendlier than she thought. Although Valkrid is actually very high-ranking. Though he is the leader, it has been over 50 years since he returned to the church to replace the statue of God today. This made the church leader slightly confused because that was the most solemn statue in the church. But when he saw the new statue, the church leader also understood why he wanted to change it so much. And to honor its creator, Hikaru, Valgrist requested that the church leader inform all branches that he and the Great Tree Village would be remembered forever. Since refusing payment for the statue, Valgrist sent a super nice piano as a gift to celebrate Lu's baby. After some discussion, everyone decided to place it in the big room of the village. The trio was amazed to see a prestigious piano displayed in the village. Although they very much wanted to try it out, all three dared not touch it for fear of breaking it and being sent to sell salt instead. Therefore, Hikaru asked Merchant Goron to place a piano in the village so everyone could practice. The piano seemed very popular as everyone wanted to play it. But only Florum and the 3 children from Maka country played it well. However, others continued to practice non-stop, even at night, which made Hikaru go crazy. Vegetables that absorb more sunlight become increasingly vibrant. But some plants grew much faster than usual, so Hikaru had them cut down. Compared to when he first started farming, Hikaru now knows a lot more. Today, Lu unexpectedly visited the fields and rested with Hikaru for lunch. On the other hand, Hikaru was more concerned about the health of the village mistress. But Lu said it was fine because there were already some Oni tribe members who had participated in childbirth, giving her useful advice. Hikaru knew nothing about this and was very curious about what his first child would look like. That evening, the ladies gathered to talk about childbirth with Lu. Lu's pregnant belly was compared to 2 cabbages. The only thing that could drive one crazy during pregnancy is wanting to drink alcohol, hee hee. As the birth date approached, family Butong started preparing baby clothes. The next morning, the three angels appealed to Hikaru to sell all the wine in the village, as everyone wanted to abstain from alcohol with Lou. Because when they see delicious food, the goblins get a craving for alcohol, and if it gets too strong, they will sneak out to drink it. Hikaru understands everyone's struggles, but if he sells all the wine, he might regret it later. It takes a lot of time to make a barrel of wine, so he hopes people will wait for it to become even better instead of drinking it now. Seeing everyone stop drinking wine makes the short men sad. So Hikaru explains to them that his wife and everyone are just avoiding alcohol temporarily. It's not because they hate wine or anything like that. At first, Donald Pan planned to reduce production, but seems he has to increase it since the drunks will drink endlessly once freed. Despite the upcoming birth, Lou still finds time to review her research. The three angels gave her a flower blooming on snow-covered ground from a distant mountain, making the room feel magical. As soon as she finished speaking, Ayakwa gifted the couple an elven healing gourd that helps people recover their strength. A few minutes later, Rusty arrived to give Yu and Nai, who can restore mana, a gift during Lou's pregnancy, and worked hard to create a pudding dessert to help her stay healthy. Floram's sister cooked miso tofu soup for their sister-in-law as nourishment. La gave Lou a lucky charm bracelet. The Kuro clan gifted wild rabbit meat, and the Bu TNG family provided baby clothes. The elemental spirits wanted to draw blood from Lou, but her hard scales made it unusual. Today, Hikaru received many gifts for the birth, including a small hammer given by Dono's group. At this moment, Hikaru accidentally noticed his wife's uncomfortable expression. She seemed ready to give birth. That evening, the maids took turns working to assist Lou in giving birth. And Hikaru was flustered because he couldn't even help himself. So Hikaru went to the tree hollow, where he lived at first to regain his composure. At first, Hikaru wanted to live somewhere without people, but now he has everyone by his side. That night, Hikaru slept inside the tree hollow as he did when he first arrived here. And upon returning home, he was told that everything turned out perfect, which made him very happy. Hikaru struggled to hold the baby for the first time in his life. And when the baby smiled, it looked very cute. In the old world, Hikaru was very sick, so now he hopes this child will grow up healthy. But Lou said that they would both raise the child together, rather than just one of them. Just then, the baby suddenly cried out, and everyone started trying to soothe it. 1 week later, the couple named their son NPHT, according to the roof's suggestion. On the outside, NPHT looks no different from an ordinary person, but he thinks it belongs to a half-demon clan. Not long ago, that tree was only home to Hikaru, but now it has grown into a village. And not only is he the village chief, but also a father. Since everyone has been contributing much to the village for so long, he decided to do something in return. After some time of thinking, Hikaru decided to install a system called Share Reward in the village. He plans to give it to those who have contributed more to the village, using it to exchange for what they want or ask others for help. Until now, all the harvested crops and hunted meat would go to Hikaru, and he would distribute them among everyone. If anyone wants something, they will have to ask Hikaru. But with such a large population, handling so many requests is almost impossible. And to allow people to trade freely, Hikaru added a monetary system to the village. People's worth would be very different, so Hikaru wanted to use money as a standard for exchange. But suddenly adding money caused some issues at first. So Hikaru will use reward points to test it out. Then Hikaru gave each person 3 reward points. The Jabutong and Kuro groups were not counted, so each group had 30 points. He made these reward points by hand to prevent counterfeiting, thus unable to produce large quantities. Some used it to trade toys. The Lun tribe traded it for alcohol. The Angel tribe uses it to trade for Floram's weapons. Since the reward system was installed, Hikaru became busier as more and more toys or household items were requested in exchange. However, not everything can be bought with money because some things are hard to value. One day a child suddenly wanted to trade money for a baby, making Hikaru cry out loud. In the end, that amount of money was exchanged for 1 day of service by the village leader. Later, when Lou's health stabilized, Hikaru organized a celebration party. This party had many delicious foods, and the monkeys could drink and get drunk after detoxing. Now everyone looks very happy, afraid they might drink too much and let alcohol control them. Before, Donald Ban gave the couple a hammer to open the special wine barrel he made for them today. Then the couple broke the barrel's lid to invite the whole village. Previously, Hikaru never imagined being offered cake to celebrate with everyone, so he hopes they can drink and have fun. Although her health has recovered, Lou still cannot join the villagers in drinking because she is breastfeeding. But seeing everyone happy like that proves Donald Ban's wine is very good. Therefore, he suggested dividing the barrel into smaller portions to ferment further, until Hikaru's son is old enough to drink. If they continue living happily like this, that day will come soon. Heard the village chief's wife just gave birth to their first child, so the four kings are meeting again. They thought it best to marry the princess to Hikaru for world peace, but the demon king does not want his daughter to get married. The Gorons also sent a grand gift to congratulate the couple. The next day, Hikaru received news that many people from nearby areas wanted to move here due to difficulties caused by wars everywhere. The estimated number of immigrants reached 3 figures, so Hikaru would need to build another village. That wasn't an easy task, but no one was willing to leave them behind, since it was Hikaru who had helped everyone in their time of need. Therefore, Hikaru decided to gather everyone to discuss plans for building a second hopeful village. Season 2 has arrived, so Rusty and Florum will reintroduce the Great Tree Village briefly. The large vegetable garden will be managed by Senna. The 2 elves will still assist in harvesting grain and blacksmithing. The dwarf tribe will take on the responsibility of producing exotic fine wines. The mountain Zoya elf clan will be responsible for crafting items. And the lazy Hakuran ant still stays in the village to teach the children their lessons. Now that the chairman's wife has a child, everyone is practicing for her to speak more confidently. Florum successfully researched a spirit creature that can record videos just like a rice-powered camera. And the one who led the village's development, as it stands now, has returned after many years. Today the village is much busier than usual, because over 100 new residents are arriving soon. With such a large number of people, Hikaru estimates he will need another village to accommodate everyone. So everyone decided to dive into construction, even practicing their greeting routine for Oxalac, and also created sandwiches made from perishable foods like vegetables to help everyone boost their energy while working. And Hikaru generously distributed these cookies to everyone. He rushed to the administrative office and found the trio buried in piles of paperwork. So Hikaru had to ask Rusty's group to help these wives more break things than build them. Therefore, Florum had to return to the demon realm for reinforcements. If the gaming club tried using their strength, they would definitely fail. The girls brought by Florum were happy to work after learning they could freely eat apples and even get some treats. Little did they know those treats turned out to be Kuro and Jabutong, making them act crazy. The trio of assassin angels patrolling the area, preparing to build a new village, found nothing dangerous. Tia planned to build it on the other side of the river to clarify the servant relationship with the Great Tree Village and prevent chaos. Most notably, there is a white tree here different from the great tree in the main village called Bao. After finding an appropriate location, the 2 elves and fairy tribe began cutting trees to make paths. But with their strength, cutting down trees in the dead forest is almost impossible. So village chief Hikaru had to play the role of a Laotian, because everything about Laos is respected. Tia used several small pieces of wood to make a bridge across the river. She did not build a large bridge, as monsters might use it to attack the village. Many days later, Hikaru continued to clear the surrounding area, while leading water from upstream into the village. It didn't seem like a good idea for the village chief to do everything from start to finish, so the land deity tribe requested to assist with armor installation. During her free time, Hikaru took advantage of the opportunity to carve a Jabutong statue before being called by Nha to play with their child. After gathering experience, Hikaru divided the materials to have everyone work on armor fitting, because he understood that carrying would be very difficult. Not long ago, he struggled to build a doghouse, but now he is preparing to construct his second village. The crafting and construction will be handled by the Lin god, while cooking duties will be managed by the Ornei maidservants. Since the elf wives were working too dangerously, the Lin gods ordered a strict ban on throwing wood as if playing. Thanks to everyone's efforts, the village is gradually taking shape. At this moment, Hikaru received a message from the assassins that Lord Dormus was preparing to bring in new settlers. Then Dormus had to apologize to Hikaru due to the urgent situation. He had sent an ox to inform Hikaru beforehand, but got so rushed that he bypassed it on his way here. The people brought by Dorm belong to the human noble tribe, and their leader is Godon. They were just driven out of the village they were living in, so had to wander here to seek Hikaru's help. Since these human nobles hadn't eaten for many days, and there were even children among them, he felt it was urgent to bring them here as soon as possible. Then and prepared food for all 72 members of the human noble tribe. She sincerely apologized to the village chief, because she only prepared porridge for them due to not knowing the habits of the human nobles. Previously, in their old village, the god tribe had coexisted with the human nobles for a period, so they requested permission to seek the opinion of the human nobles. Fortunately, Hikaru had also prepared some large cans for them beforehand. But the human nobles are over 2 meters tall, while the newly built houses are only about 1.8 meters high. Therefore, Hikaru had to take them in as refugees in the guest house and main house, while the houses in the new village will be given to other races. Right now, Florum informed Hikaru that her father would also bring refugees from the demon realm. As too many people needed to be transported here, the 4 heavenly kings used continuous teleportation, which made them dizzy. And those just brought by the 4 heavenly kings belonged to the half-human, half-horse race. Not knowing who the leader in front of them was, they were making inappropriate references. Representing the half-human, half-horse race is Gruin, a familiar face to the steward from the White Owl clan. Then Gruin asked the poor village head to state his name appropriately. And when she saw Hikaru was silent, the wife thought he was being impolite. Not understanding the way nobles greet, Hikaru asked an administrative staff member to welcome them. Instead of the head of diplomacy, Rusty, who wasn't here and not even confirmed about immigration. With Ruin's arrogant attitude, the office worker explained that they were quite busy and couldn't receive them properly. And she came here for help, we're not living Buddhas in a temple. Ruin then pointed out to the office worker, a small and rude girl. So she had to introduce herself as the daughter of Duke Draw from the Ma Kingdom, currently living and working here. In terms of status within the kingdom, Gruin is just a servant acquaintance of a lower noble family compared to Dora's. Talking to Gruin, she learned that her attitude was to protect her people. Although Dora is a noble in the demon world, she is just a low-level office worker here. The one who talked to Gruin earlier was actually the village chief, which shocked her. After Dora explained about the village to her, Gruin quickly knelt and apologized to Hikaru for her impoliteness. But Hikaru said it's fine, because here too you know. Then Dora asked permission to manage the centaur tribe, as they are related to their family. On the other hand, Hikaru was worried that this might affect the Dora family, since there is a war in the demon world, but she said it's okay. The office workers' wives were busy hiding from work somewhere around here. Then Hikaru led Gruin to the new village, and realized the size of the houses was quite small compared to theirs. The centaur tribe has over 100 members, while the guest house in the main village is already full. So Lee suggested that the centaur tribe seek refuge with the snake people living inside the dungeon. The Lamia tribe brought a group of young women to the village right away. The Lamia tribe found them wandering in the forest eating chocolate pie and took them back. Hikaru greeted everyone over there, and his greeting was met with a talking tree. According to what Hikaru knows, the people in front are spirit tree beings. When they encounter monsters, they will transform into trees to hide, but if injured, they won't return to human form for some time. The homeland of the spirit tree beings was flooded due to excessive deforestation by humans. Because Merchant Michael talked about the forest village, everyone moved here. Then Hikaru planned to have the Oni tribe prepare a meal to invite everyone. But the spirit tree beings said they didn't need it, as they eat soil for sustenance. So Hikaru had to farm a field to offer them temporary food, but the NPCs seem to be acting weirdly. The tree spirits don't require much. Just clean water, good sunlight, and fertile soil. At this moment, Hikaru offered for them to live in the new village houses, but tree spirits declined, as they wish to reside where there is beautiful sunshine. After some arrangement, Hikaru moved the children of the new clan to the new settlement. The horse clan temporarily lived in the cowshed, while the tree spirits stood outside. Like NPCs, this was only a temporary solution because many settlers still lacked accommodation. And they also needed to prepare food and supplies for them. Therefore, Hikaru decided to design an enormous house, large enough for 200 new and horse clan members to live in.